2 years after the last MCU movie, we finally have Black Widow. And it was delayed over a year. So, was it worth the wait? As I said, it's been over 2 years since the last MCU film was Spider-Man Far From Home. And I've changed a lot since then. I mean, yeah, this was me from when Far From Home came out. Then also, I just have changed a lot in different ways. For my film taste and film knowledge has definitely increased, and by a really big amount, just from the movies I've seen to just learning about other things and just learning about what makes a great movie has changed. Because that was when I first started my channel. That was in my first couple months of my channel. And then also my opinions on just certain movies and stuff have very much changed. Like, when I go back and watch some of my old reviews, some of my scores I still agree with, but some of them I don't exactly know what I was thinking. But maybe one day I'll look back on these reviews and not know what I was thinking. I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, I just wanted to take a look because I didn't really do anything for any of my anniversaries on my channel or whatever. So I just wanted to use this as I've been doing this for over 2 years now, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of people have been saying that it's too late for a Black Widow movie, and that's not because it was delayed a year. It's because even if it wasn't delayed a year, Black Widow died in Avengers Endgame, which came out in 2019. So it's kind of weird that we're finally getting a movie after she's dead in the MCU. And obviously it takes place before, but people have been wanting a Black Widow movie for 10 years or whatever. And it's you're finally getting one after she's dead. That's just a little bit weird. And especially the way they sort of place it in. It's not a big sort of full flashback movie where it's shows her origin story or something. It takes place after Civil War, in between Infinity War. So it's just a random movie, in between Civil War and Infinity War, and okay, why didn't it come out then? Because Civil War obviously changed the landscape for the MCU, and then Infinity War, Endgame are sort of there. So there's actually a lot of movies that really play off of Civil War, take place in between this time, like Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, other ones I can't think of on the top of my head probably. So why didn't you just put Black Widow there? That would have made a lot more sense. I feel if they should have done a Black Widow movie now, they should have done it before we meet her in Iron Man 2. And I feel it should have been about this Budapest mission, because they've been talking about this since Avengers 2012, and then also they mentioned in Endgame, and then in this Black Widow, it's we finally get some of the answers to Budapest, but it's not really about that. And they do have some sort of flashbacks and some other lots of mentions of stuff. And this Budapest mission actually sounds really, really interesting. I think I would really rather have getting to see that Budapest mission than just this Black Widow movie that we got, because they really could have done some interesting things with that. I don't know if it made it seem like I'm negative on this film or whatever, because I haven't actually said my actual opinions on the actual film. I was just saying when it should be released and stuff. But basically, I did like it. I did think it was good, but I did have some problems with it, and I definitely didn't love it. The big standout for this movie wasn't Black Widow, but it was Florence Pugh as Yelena. Florence Pugh as Yelena, she totally knocks it out of the park. Florence Pugh kills it. She nails the charisma and the emotion. I just love seeing her on screen. And then Yelena is definitely my favorite character here too. She's a really sad and interesting backstory, and they're able to use that within the film very effectively for some great character moments and some nice humorous moments too and stuff, and just some really touching moments. I do want to talk about the action. All the best action bits were shown in the trailer. From the trailers, I thought it was gonna have some of the best action in the MCU, and that's not really the case, because there are some cool moments in the action the scenes that are in the trailer, but there's not specifically any overall just great action scenes or just like on the edge of your seat enjoying the epic choreography or anything. The MCU has done some scenes like that, but this one didn't really have anyone. And the problems with this sort of action also ties into one of my biggest problems with the movie, which is with the villains. And this movie was going to bring in Taskmaster, who's a pretty iconic Marvel villain if you're a Marvel fan. And I'm a really big fan of the villain Taskmaster. Like, he's just such an interesting idea for a villain, and I really like him in Marvel. So I was really excited to bring him, like, in here. And specifically for the action, having Taskmaster be in your movie should make for some really interesting, epic action, like, that really kicks up the tension and keeps you engaged. My introduction to Taskmaster was Ultimate Spider-Man, which is, a show I watched as a kid, and I don't remember every episode of that show, but that's one that really stuck out to me because it was able to keep me on the edge of my seat the entire time because Taskmaster just seemed like the impossible villain to beat. Not only can he use all the different fighting techniques of other superheroes, but he learns Spider-Man's fighting style and finds the perfect way to counter it. So it seems like no matter what Spider-Man does, there's no way that he can beat Taskmaster. And that just makes a really engaging fight as you're rooting for the hero to somehow come on top when it seems impossible. If Ultimate Spider-Man can do that, then a big MCU movie definitely should be able to do that. And I kind of felt the tension in the first fight with Taskmaster, which probably was my favorite fight scene in it. But then after that, Taskmaster's just sort of just there in the action and just in the movie in general. Taskmaster never feels like the big threat that Taskmaster should be. One of the reasons Captain America Winter Soldier works so well and I do think is one of the best MCU movies is because of the Winter Soldier himself and just how intimidating he is. Whenever he's on screen with the characters, you're sort of scared for them, and just him in the action just brings this whole new level to it, and also has Winter Soldier has definitely some of the best action scenes of the entire MCU, and a big reason is how they utilize the Winter Soldier. And Taskmaster, they could have easily made as intimidating as the Winter Soldier, and probably could have even made him more intimidating with his skill set. And it's not like Taskmaster isn't just intimidating, they're just not in the action that much in general, and they don't do anything special with the action and with Taskmaster's skill set. They're just sort of there. Red Guardian is supposed to be the Russian knockoff of Captain America. So there's a running gag with Alexei talking about Captain America and lying about how he fought him and stuff like that. And Taskmaster uses Captain America's skills and has a shield and stuff. And Taskmaster and Red Guardian fight. So they could have turned that into a cool moment, giving Red Guardian the chance to finally fight Captain America. But they don't really say anything about that. And the fight isn't very long, and it's not the focus of the scene. And they don't really do anything with that, which that could have been a big epic moment, giving Red Guardian something more to do in this third act, and then also Taskmaster, giving Taskmaster that a more iconic fight. Other sort of main villain here, who the leader, the Red Room person, was not very good either. He doesn't have much depth at all, and he doesn't seem to pose much of a threat at all. If you're not gonna have much depth, lots of the MCU villains don't have depth, which I do think is a problem that those films have, but at least make them feel like an intimidating villain, which this dude was not. And also, the other Black Widows, they should be, so threatening, just having an army of, people like Natasha and Yelena. That seems like a really scary idea, but they just never feel intimidating, which I think really plays into the action just not being as engaging. Even though there was some funny jokes and stuff, some of the comedy, specifically from Alexei, just ruined these great, emotional moments. They really played some of these jokes in the wrong spot and really sort of, ruined some of these moments that should be great. And I am a big fan of David Harbour, and I do like him as Alexi, and I did like Alexi, but like his jokes just sometimes can just ruin the moment, even though he does say some funny things. But that does mean there are some great emotional scenes that obviously, and I think specifically when you have stuff with Natasha and Elena and just this whole family and like how they do things, there are some great emotional scenes that can really get you invested. The pacing in this film is weird because it's a lot of setup. Like the first act of this movie is really long. The first act does have lots of my favorite scenes of the movie though. And then we get to the second act for like a scene or two is like what I consider the second act. But then really it just goes straight to the third act. And the third act is definitely the weakest part of the movie for me. So like I definitely would have preferred to have more of a second act and not just this third act that is not that good. So I wish they changed this up, like changed up this third act, maybe cut some from the first act because I did really like lots of that stuff in it, but like they could have trimmed that and then give this more of a defined second act. I think would have improved the structure of this film and definitely would have improved on some of the other aspects of the film. And I think that would have made it like that like closer to top tier MCU movie. I don't think it would be one of my absolute favorites, but I'd still be like, okay, yeah, this is pretty close to like top tier. Like this is like that close to top 10 at least spot. And now it's like the around a little bit below like top 15 level. So, yeah, that's honestly all I have to say about the movie. I don't know if it made me sound negative. Maybe it made me sound positive. I don't really know how to balance these things, but if it made it seem like I was super negative with this movie, keep in mind I still did enjoy it. So don't like yell at me in the comment section like, oh, like if you're an MCU, oh, you're so stupid. How'd you hate this movie? I didn't hate it. I just didn't absolutely love it. And that's okay. So comment down below, what did you think about this movie? It seems to be a bit more controversial. I do know lots of people who are really liking it, even some that are loving it. And then also, I've seen some people who dislike it and stuff. And then there's actually, like, I know lots of people who are around my level. So people seem to be a bit more, like, all over the place for this movie. So I'm really interested in what you guys think. Please like and subscribe and keep watching Meek.